Well, hello there, folks. Welcome to my tombstone. And by the way, this is my final resting place, Tombstone, Arizona. The town's just east of here, about 2 miles. It's not hard to get to. Just mosey on down the road slowly, and you won't have any trouble. This is where it all started. To me, it's the memories. The gunfight at the OK Corral. I'll tell you more about that just a bit later. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Ed Shefflin, and this is a story about one of the wildest towns of the Old West. Tombstone, Arizona Territory, a soon-to-be silver crown tarnished with blood. I was a scout for the U.S. Army over at Camp Huachuca, long about 1877. I got it in my head there was silver out there, and I was going to find it. Everyone thought I was loco for trying to find my stash of silver in an area inhabited by rattlesnakes, renegades, and anyone else with a past to hide. But I was not giving up. Well, the other scouts knowledgeable about the area told me the only thing I would find there was my tombstone. I just hoped that I was right and they were wrong. Even my wife Mary didn't know what I was up to. I think she'd have left me if she did. One day I left Fort Huachuca, and while doing some prospecting, I found an area that was promising. Along about the second night, I was up near Goose Flats. Not far from here, I heard horses and men talking. They were Apaches. Their reputations alone would send shivers up my spine, or anyone's with half a brain. The Apaches are great warriors, and that was the purpose of Camp Huachuca, to protect settlers from their raids and protect the border. First I thought, one sudden move and I'd be a goner. Maybe they wouldn't notice me. Instead, I just bunked down in a nearby wash and told myself not to make any sudden moves. Next morning, I woke to a wonderful sight. It was silver, and I knew I was going to be a rich man. I packed some up and headed back to Camp Huachuca to resign. I told the boys they would read about me soon, and they thought me loony. I then sought help. My brother and a man named Richard Gerd, a mine engineer. Gerd staked me enough money to file a claim and start mining. Well, it wasn't long before I struck the mother lode. In August 1877, my first mine, Tombstone. Soon the Tombstone mine was putting out more silver than I ever dreamed of. My second mine was called the Graveyard, and my third mine was named the Lucky Cuss, and I sure was a lucky cuss. The fourth mine was named the Tough Nut. In 1880, Tombstone had emerged as a boom town. We had our own newspapers, the Nugget, and yes, the Epitaph. Others would come. An appropriate name for the newspaper, the Epitaph, located in Tombstone and only blocks from the West's most famous cemetery, Boot Hill. I'm told the Epitaph is still one of the town's newspapers. The town was growing up with people. There were plenty of places to eat in. The restaurants were quite good. And after a good meal, well, a little time in one of the many saloons was a welcome relief
from the rock piles to lessen the silver in their pockets. The Oriental Saloon, the Golden Eagle Brewery, now the Crystal Palace, and of course the Birdcage Theater. The theater was aptly named as men would come to a show put on by women, prostitutes who plied their trade in cages. Out back, men would drink and gamble. I hear tell you can still visit, and you should. The Birdcage is almost as it was in the late 1880s.
People came to Tombstone by the thousands once the word got out that silver was to be found here. Fortune seekers of all kinds, miners, lawyers, business people, prostitutes, and madams, entertainers, and good people looking for a break. Anyone who wanted to be where the action and the money were. It was during this time that characters who've influenced Tombstone's history, and yes, its survival as a town, came to my little hamlet, Tombstone. In December of 1879, the Earps arrived on the scene. Wyatt Earp, his wife Mattie, Virgil, his wife Allie, James and his wife Nellie. Morgan Earp arrived with his wife Lou 7 months later. Warren, the fifth Earp brother, lived nearby in Wilcox, Arizona. The most famous character was Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp. Wyatt was born on March 19th in Monmouth, Illinois, and at an early age, his father taught him to always stand up for what was right. We could go on about Wyatt's past. By the time he arrived in Tombstone, his reputation as a quick draw, tracker, and lawman preceded him. Although Wyatt's common-law wife was a drug-dependent woman named Mattie, he fell in love with Josephine Sarah Marcus, a one-time prostitute and sometimes actress. Wyatt stole Josie away from John Behan, the sheriff of Cochise County. This may have resulted in Behan's personal hatred and ultimate vendetta against the Earps. Some say it was Wyatt's relationship with Josie that contributed to the gunfight at the OK Corral. Others say it might have been a bad deal and some cattle rustling that led up to the hostilities, while still others say it may have just been an unfortunate accident. Another famous player in this scenario was John Henry Doc Holliday. Doc was born on August 14, 1851 in Griffin, Georgia. He was trained as a dentist, but his illness forced him into gambling and gunfighting. This became his forte and his destiny. Tuberculosis, or consumption, forced him to go west to a drier climate. Doc traveled through a series of towns and gunfights. He was sometimes on the run from the law, and always on the run from jealous husbands and poor losers. Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday first met in Denver due to Wyatt's friendship with Bat Masterson, but that's another story. Wyatt and Doc renewed their acquaintance in Dodge City, Kansas, and remained friends in Tombstone. One night after hearing rumors that some no-goods had cornered Wyatt and were going to shoot him, Doc arrived to startle the men with his guns, guts, and profanity. Wyatt was then able to relieve them of their guns and take control of the situation. This made an everlasting impression on both and cemented a bond between the men that lasted a lifetime. Doc had also met Big Nose Kate in Denver. She, like Doc, was full of fire and feisty as a badger, and had a face to match. Both wanted to be where the action and the money were, and where they were, trouble soon followed, to Tombstone. Their relationship was sometimes violent, but always passionate. John Behan arrived in Tombstone in March 1880. He had a livery business. In February 1881, he was appointed the first sheriff of Cochise County. The county had recently been part of Pima County, Arizona. Behan had a pledge to name Wyatt Earp as the undersheriff, but broke his word by naming Harry Woods as the undersheriff. Some of the cowboys were called the Clanton Gang, and known as that, a gang. When thinking of gangs, you think of corruption, lawlessness, and street fights. This gang was a cavalry of cowboys who found pleasure in thievery, intimidation, and disorderly conduct. Joseph Isaac Clanton, Ike, a survivor of the gunfight at the OK Corral, was shot while resisting arrest in 1887 at the Eagle Creek in Arizona Territory. He was shot in the back. Tom McClowry was killed at the gunfight at the OK Corral, Frank McClowry killed at the OK Corral, and Billy Clanton dead at the OK Corral, just 19 years old. The McClowrys were often and closely associated with the Clantons. In all, 3 men were killed in the gunfight at the OK Corral. 3 others were wounded: Morgan Earp, Doc Holliday, and Virgil Earp. Wyatt Earp was unscathed. There are many good people who've come and gone since those wild days of the last century. Take Nellie Cashman, for instance. They called her the angel of the mining camp. Legend has it that she was upset that the town folk used to hang people on the corner of 6th and Fremont Street. So she helped build a church on that site, the Sacred Heart Church, in 1881. A year later, Nellie helped build the rectory. She would never let anyone go hungry, and often took in the unfortunate until better times made their way into their lives. We could do a whole show on just this one magnificent angel of the mining camp. And there are others. China Mary, who helped bring the railroad to Tombstone. China Mary was like a mother and stern father to the other Chinese who helped build my tombstone. She and Quan Ki were also responsible for distributing opium in Tombstone. There were others, just as notable Jeff Milton, a Pat sheriff. His house is still standing. And Tom Jeffords, blood brother of Cochise, who together sought to end the mistrust of the last era. And Allen English, a lawyer who served on the Committee for Statehood of the territory. And let's not forget B.A. Fickus, the town's first notary public and chairman of the committee that sought statehood. He helped the town lot commission and recorded the sale of the newly subdivided lots. It is often said that once in a while the same lot was sold to more than one person. Honest error or another fortune seeker, we don't know. He had a soft spot in his heart, and he was often responsible for posting bail when there was trouble in town. Along with Mr. Jones, the county recorder, he did post bail for Frank Stillwell. Stillwell rode with Curly Bill Broaches, the man responsible for killing City Marshal Fred White in 1880. It has also been said that Stillwell killed Morgan Earp. This could have been another factor adding to the trouble Wyatt faced and leading to the infamous 30 seconds at 2:30 on the 26th of October, 1881 at the OK Corral. Thinking of some of those people makes me homesick for the music, the laughter, and the home cooking. I'm so proud of the town Too Tough to Die and the people of Tombstone. They're a hardy bunch. Oh, just so you know, the real rowdy street in Tombstone in those days was Tough Nut Street. It was also the site of the Cochise County Courthouse and where 5 men were hanged on March 24th, 1884. What boomtown didn't exist without a bordello or two? Red light districts also made their way onto the scene. Our first bordello was established by Mary Catherine Fisher. You might know her as Big Nose Kate, one of Doc Holliday's girlfriends. If you go to Tombstone today, you can see a saloon named for Big Nose Kate. It's a rowdy place, full of life and entertainment. I think of most of the saloons in Tombstone today, Big Nose Kate's is the one to go to if you want to recreate what my Tombstone was like in its boom era. There's a local legend about the custodian of the saloon finding silver in a shaft underneath the saloon. A dubious story, but an intriguing tale nonetheless. We'll ask the locals about that one. Jim, give us, if you will, some background information on the ghosts of Tombstone.
Well, Tombstone in its early days was known to be one of the bloodiest towns in the West. Ghosts are created by trapped spirits due to traumatic events, sudden death, violent death, etc. And there was plenty of that in Tombstone because it was often said that 1 man a day died at least in Tombstone.
And where have these ghosts been seen?
They've been seen in nearly all the major buildings. Big Nose Kate's Saloon, the Bird Cage, the Crystal Palace, Shefflin Hall, which is a gathering place for the local citizens, and many of the private residences in town, including several of the modern bed and breakfast locations.
Have the ghosts of any famous characters been seen, such as Wyatt Earp, any of the cowboys, or Marshal Fred White?
Well, it was said that in the early days that someone saw possibly a ghost of Wyatt Earp, although we're not sure because he didn't die here. But I have never heard of any famous people. Usually it's just the ordinary person.
Is it true that ghosts have been seen in Big Nose Kate's Saloon?
Oh, yes, many times.
Are any of these ghosts haunting ghosts, perhaps?
Well, haunting, not particularly. Ghosts are just happen to be there. They don't pay too much attention to people, and the idea that ghosts can kill you or hurt you, this is strictly out of Hollywood.
Oh.
We have a photograph that was taken of the ghost at the bar in Big Nose Kate's.
Now, this is the shadow here in the lower left-hand corner?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right.
Gentlemen, I hear you're talking about ghosts and spirits.
Yes, we are.
I manage here at Big Nose Kate's, and I've been involved with several of the sightings and events that took place here at Big Nose Kate's.
Is that right?
We've had several things. I see you have one of my pictures off the wall here. We had gentlemen in here, they were taking pictures, and they sent us back a copy. And we have a knife that is shown in one of our pictures here that was never there before.
This is the knife?
Yes, it is, reflected on the wall. A gentleman came in, he could not get past a certain point down in our shaft because of a force that was holding him back from where the swamper had stayed.
Huh.
We have other sightings that took place going down on our back stairway to our shaft. You get down to the 3rd level, and there has not been a lady that was able to get past that point before we remodeled it. It was just a force that kept her from doing it, or it was a force to appear to push her down the stairs. We remodeled it, and since then we have not had a sighting or event at that point. Other events, we have mannequins that's up on our stage area. We were here one night. Everything was shut down. Our female mannequin was pushed over, and our man mannequin's head just automatically went over to the other mannequin, and we left very expediently. We did not stick around for that.
Now, what about this piece of correspondence here?
Yes, this is a gentleman here, a professor. He brought a team down with him to study the effects of ghosts and spirits in the building. He spent the night here with his crew, and they did validate that there was sightings and events that did take place. They had temperature changes, they've had movements, they've had sound that took place, drew the attention to the eyes to the sound, but nothing was there to make that sound. We had an interview going on at that time, and it sounded like a dice fall from the ceiling, hit the chair, and it caught everyone's attention. We never actually physically see them. We see the results and the effects of them. Many, many footsteps. We come in here in the morning or late in the evening. We'll lock up, do our normal routine around here, and we'll have footsteps going across our dance floor. We have just the sounds of a boot. We turn around and nobody's there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate it, gentlemen.
Wyatt may have left Tombstone, but many believe he returns here. Morgan Earp got shot in the back just playing billiards. Just doesn't seem right. There he was, in the Campbell and Hatch saloon, just minding his own business. They say a soul never leaves far from his departure point.
Watch this shot.
Why I mentioned Fremont Street is that it's here, not inside the OK Corral, that the shootout really took place. What is now a bustling highway, also historic Highway 80 and Fremont Street, Just behind the OK Corral, and where hundreds pass daily, is the true site of that fateful fight. If you had to recreate this spot, say at the time of the gunfight, would it look like this?
Now, you know as well as I do, Virgil, Doc had nothing to do with that stage holdup.
And we're not going to let anything happen to Doc. You with us, Mark?
I'm with you. He couldn't have done it. It isn't his style. He would have taken their money at cards.
They're trying to discredit us. I'm not going to...
You're not going to leave me out of this, are you, Wyatt?
You stay out of this, Doc. This is none of your concern.
Why would you say that to me?
Give him a shotgun.
There you go, Doc.
What do you want here, Behan?
Orville, what's your gun?
We're not giving up their guns, Behan. I'm not healed, so we're not doing it. We don't want any trouble here either, Behan. Did you go talk to the Earth? Why don't you go talk to them? We don't want any trouble here.
Supplies are wagons and get on back to the way.
When we get our supplies and wagons, we'll leave. You go talk to them. There's your trouble over there. Go talk to them, Behan.
Going downtown, eh? Here comes Behan now.
When he gets up here, you get rid of him.
Well, there's going to be trouble in there.
Did you disarm their convoy?
Yes, I disarmed them.
Then there won't be trouble. Get out of here.
You stay out of this, Behan. Sons of bitches been looking for a fight. Now, by God, you can have it.
Don't shoot Wyatt, I don't want to fight.
You've been all under arrest. Throw up your hands. Oh, I didn't mean that.
Fighter, get out! I got him!
Doc, get moored.
Wyatt, I'm going to have to arrest you. I told you I didn't want no gunfire.
You're not going to arrest anybody today, Behan.
And speaking of the Clantons and McFlowries, we are joined here by Terry Ike Clanton.
How you doing?
Glad to meet you.
I want to choke this guy. I keep getting bigger and he keeps getting skinnier. I want to choke him though. Him and I just go back a little bit here. We have different views on the gunfight at the OK Corral.
Why don't you give us your side of it, Terry?
Well, I truly believe that really Wyatt Earp outlived anybody that could dispute what he had to say, and it all comes back to, you know, Wyatt Earp made a hero out of himself, and I believe that if you look at the old history books and go back and read all the old stuff, back in the old days when they first started writing about the OK Corral, I believe that you'll find out the true histories back in the Old West. I believe the modern day historians have changed the story to make it look like Wyatt Earp's a hero and all this stuff. I don't believe that. I truly believe that the gunfight at the OK Corral is a double murder cover-up, and I think it goes all the way back to March 15th, 1881, and I believe that Bill Leonard, Harry Head, Jim Crane, and Luther King were involved with Doc Holliday, and I believe that Doc Holliday was the trigger man in an attempted stage holdup going to Benson, and he killed Bud Philpott and a guy named Peter Roerig, who was a passenger. And I believe that the Earps tried to hide the fact that Doc Holliday was the real trigger man in that. And I believe that Ike Clanton knew the story because he knew Bill Leonard, Harry Head, and all them guys. And Bill Leonard admitted to him that Doc Holliday, if he wouldn't have been there on March 15th and drunk, that those two guys wouldn't have been killed. And Ike Clanton knew it, and he was blowing the whistle on Doc Holliday, and it all came to a big head on October 26, 1881.
Totally disagree with you, Terry. It was Ike turning his back on his friends and trying to get a payoff, and going to dump them on the law, who were the Earps,
Yeah, well,
that caused the animosity.
I believe that there actually was a thing where he actually tried to pay him off and everything. You know, Wyatt Earp actually offered Ike Clanton money to drop the whistle on his buddies, but he didn't do it.
No, he chickened out because he...
No, he didn't do it because he knew the truth. He knew the truth, and he was going to blow the whistle on him. And the night before the OK Corral gunfight, which you don't see in the movie Tombstone, you don't see in any of the movies, Doc Holliday came in the night before when Ike Clanton was having a sandwich right across the street from where we're sitting right now, and threatened to kill him because he goes, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You're blowing the whistle on me." You know, I mean, that's what happened.
No, he threatened to kill him because of the animosity he had been building between the rival factions.
Because he knew the story.
No.
He was blowing the whistle on him.
I disagree with you totally, Terry. I disagree with you totally. Doc Holliday didn't have a thing to do with that holdup.
But now hold on. How come all the old history books say that? That's the thing you have to look at.
Because
The old history books, the new history books say that.
Because of Big Nose Kate and her animosity towards Doc in one period of drunkenness when Johnny Behan talked her into signing a statement that never really happened.
See, I believe that. I believe that when she signed that, I believe that Big Nose Kate, when she signed an affidavit, and I believe that I can look right into that camera and tell you, if you're going to sign an affidavit, anybody signed an affidavit, I don't care how drunk you are or anything, if you sign an affidavit implicating your loved one in a double murder homicide, I think that I just don't believe that. I believe that that's the truth. I believe that she knew that he did it, and she got drunk one night, and I believe she signed it.
Well,
he did do it.
Well, gentlemen, let me throw this out. I also hear tell that the Earps and the Clantons were partners as far as cattle rustling was concerned. That deal went awry, and that is one of the causes of the eventual.
That is pure fiction. There is no documentation whatsoever of that.
I don't believe that either.
Now, where things got started, as far as the truth being stretched, was not in modern day historical research, but with a man named Stuart Lake and his writer, Frontier Marshal, and then someone else decided to do some Earp bashing and printed what they called facts without any documentation.
You don't believe the Stuart Lake thing, though, do you?
Of course not.
Okay.
I also
That's
don't
where it all
believe.
started.
I also don't believe Walter Noble Burns, Tombstone in Italy to the Southwest. That's a big
You should
pile of
start
bunk.
believing in Terry Ike Clanton.
Are you kidding? You're a fictitious character.
Gents, let me throw this out. The shooting of Marshal Fred White. Now, some people
That was a
say
conspiracy.
That was a conspiracy. How? In what way?
Because he was opposed to the cowboy faction. The cowboy faction had to find a way to conveniently get rid of him and set him up, and Curly Bill Brocious set him up to be killed.
Was it made to look like Curly Bill shot him accidentally?
Yes, it was made to look like that, even to Marshal White himself.
Okay, now, how accurately was it portrayed in the movie Tombstone?
Well, Marshall White, before he died, told everybody that he believed it was an accident.
Well, he thought it was because...
He believed it was an accident. He told everybody before he died that he believed it was an accident.
That's what exonerated Curly Bill Brocious, was that statement, unfortunately, because I believe, personally, that it was out-and-out murder, that they had conspired, because their drunken brawl that was going on right in front of Marshal White's house. How convenient.
So in other words, when the trial came about, and Judge Spiker supposedly finally got back to town, he had no choice but to quit.
Right. Based on a deathbed statement of a man who wasn't sure what happened himself in the dark.
And see that, well, the aftermath of that, where the cowboys got mad, was some of the cowboys got beat up over that whole deal and pistol whipped out in the street and stuff, and they believed that it was an accidental shooting and they got pistol whipped for nothing, and that started the heat between the two factions. But
Terry, do you believe that the gun law that was enacted by Virgil Earp, who was chief of police, did that also have something to do with it?
Well, I think that, I believe that, like Jack Kidd said, that Virgil Earp brought that into he thinks that was what brought the corral together, but I don't believe that.
Only partially.
I believe that Ike Clanton the next day was defending himself. They threatened him the night before and said that the next time we see you, Ike, we're going to kill you. And the next morning, he was sobered up just enough to go get his Winchester rifle and his .45, and he went looking for Doc Holliday. And that's when that's when Morgan Earp and Virgil Earp found him on 4th Street and pistol whipped him from behind. It wasn't a fair fight. They didn't say, hey, turn around, let's have a fair fight. They pistol whipped him from behind, took him to the ground, took him to jail, and charged him $27.50 for defending himself after being...
Fair fight. Now, a cop or a law enforcement officer today, he's going to go up to an armed criminal and look him in the eye and say...
He wasn't an armed criminal. That's the other thing that people did.
He was breaking the law.
None of the Clantons were ever convicted of a felony crime. A lot of people don't know that. None of them were ever convicted of a felony crime. But yet there are these big bad outlaws in the Old West, but yet they were never convicted of a felony crime. They were never convicted of a felony crime. Okay? The only time, and everybody might say, oh yeah, well, Finis Faye Clanton spent a year and a half in Yuma prison. Yeah. But he was exonerated because it was found out that it was a conspiracy against him and everything. You know the story on that. And so they dropped the charges after he spent a year and a half in prison. I'm not here today to tell you that the Clantons were a bunch of angels. I don't believe that. I don't believe that the Earps were angels either. And I know they weren't. But I just go on the facts and what the truth is. And that's what I do.
They were all basically a product of the time.
I think they all wore pretty gray hats, for sure.
One more question. How do you feel the effect of the aftermath of the gunfight at the OK Corral? What kind of effect has it had on Tombstone?
Well, I think that Tombstone lives off of the OK Corral gunfight. I believe that I wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't for the OK Corral gunfight, because I don't believe there's no manufacturing of anything in Tombstone, and there isn't anything here but tourism. It's hot sitting here, okay? We're out here in the hot sun. I don't believe there's anything here but tourism. I think the whole city of Tombstone lives off tourism, and I truly believe that they should remember that. People that live here should remember that the town lives off tourism.
Absolutely.
One thing that I want to ask both of you. Do you think anybody is ever going to come to a collective understanding? There's a lot of different opinions.
Never. It would destroy the entire myth, the entire legend, if facts were ever to be really known, probably. But we love it the way it is.
Right. Jack has his opinions. I have my opinions. I respect his opinions. He respects my opinions. I believe that if everybody had the same opinion, we wouldn't be sitting here and there wouldn't be a Tombstone.
That's right.
I think Tombstone lives off of the controversy.
And it has for 100 years.
And it will continue to live forever.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Ben, I have to ask you, what is it that perpetuates Tombstone's history and brings so many tourists here each year?
Well, Tombstone history will always be with us because of 3 magic words: Tombstone, Earp, and OK Corral. Now, those 3 magic words have built the Tombstone tourism industry. And without those 3 words, this town would have crumbled to dust and blown away in the desert long ago.
Even there'd have been no El Dorado either?
No, nothing. El Dorado kicked it off as a tourist attraction, but they did it because of the gunfight. Without that 30-second gunfight, there would be nothing here, and none of us would be here. There'd be no reason to be.
Thanks, Ben. Tombstone has and is changing. It still has no streetlights. People have to walk to the post office. They still do chat along the way about issues past and present. Let's see what future direction Tombstone may take. Remember, Tombstone won't fade away. She'll always be there, one way or another. So come on down and visit, and feel her special magic.
Wyatt Earp, I love you.